Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jedley. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We are coming to you from the beautiful, wonderful, sunny neighborhood of Reedville, located in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so very honored and absolutely delighted that you're joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. You can join us in our mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network, and they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Amazon Music, Podcast Addict, Audible, CastBox, Player FM. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. We have a really fascinating show for you today. First up, Todd Grindoll. He is here to share some research that wanted to answer the question, are young kids able to learn science and engineering from watching videos and playing games? You're going to really be amazed at the answer. And later in the show, Audrey Weatherstone will be here to celebrate Lady Needed Space, talking about reactive dogs. Sick days just got spectacular. In Charlotte and Penelope and the neighborhood stage, two sisters are stuck inside until their animal friends put on the show of the year. Meet a dolphin band leader, a tap-dancing rabbit, and the loudest geese you've ever heard. It's a rhyming, rollicking, read-along adventure your kids will absolutely love. You can find Charlotte and Penelope and the neighborhood stage by Teresa Argenbright wherever books are sold. Hey, my friends, I want you to meet Corky the Quirky Cow, the most musical cow you'll ever meet. Corky has a magical gift. She can mimic every animal on the farm. Pigs, ducks, chickens, you name it. Together with her friends, Corky creates a barnyard symphony so enchanting that Farmer Ken starts hosting concerts. Written by Lavelle Carlson, Corky the Quirky Cow is more than just a funny farm tale. It's a powerful tool for speech therapists, teachers, and parents to help build early language, articulation, and phonological skills. Through her fun-filled storybook adventures, Corky the Quirky Clown helps young readers boost their speech and language skills with laughter and learning. And guess what? She's offering a free downloadable book, Eek! I Hear a Squeak. It's perfect for parents, teachers, and speech therapists. You can get yours today at slpstorytellers.com. The Day Time Began, beautiful new picture book by Mary Ellen Roberson. Available at maryellenroberson.com.
In the dawn of the world, when colors were born, a gentle voice whispered, let there be morn. From mountains to rivers and skies up so blue, the daytime began. Oh, what a beautiful view. With every beat of the heart, in the breeze of the land, nature was singing as life took a stand. Oh, the wonders, the colors, the creatures so bright, in the pages of a story that brings pure delight. With every turn of the leaves, can you feel the cheer? The daytime began, let's celebrate here.
I am very excited. We are going to learn something today. Our guest is coming to us from not too far away. Probably, there are probably, I don't know, 75, 80 Dunkin' Donuts between you and I, Todd, here in Massachusetts. And we're going to be talking about the Cat in the Hat. Knows a lot about that. Please welcome to the show, Todd Grindoll. Hey, Todd, how are you?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
Todd is part of SRI.com, a nonprofit research group. My wife just splashed our studio window with her hose. And that kind of threw me off my concentration a little bit. Tell me a little bit about SRI. It's a nonprofit research group, correct?
That's right. So we're a nonprofit research institute. We've been around for about 80 years now. We were originally associated with Stanford University, so that's where the letters come from. They were the Stanford Research Institute. And we work on a range of things at SRI. I'm really fortunate in my work. I focus on education, and particularly on the education of young children. And in our work, we do a lot of helping to understand what works, for whom, and in what contexts. And then more importantly, when we figure out what works, how do we do more of it with more kids and families and teachers across the country? So some of that are things like this. They are studies like this where we work for different organizations to understand if the things they were providing to kids were effective.
Yeah. I love what you said, trying to find out what works and what works for who, or whom. Cause one of the things that we've talked about here a lot on Reading with Your Kids is the fact that we don't learn the same way. You and I might learn in completely different ways.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think that can depend on the circumstance, that can depend on the person, that can depend on the day of the week and how you're feeling. So it's important, I think, to have lots of opportunities, particularly with young children, for young children to be able to access both academic content, but also to experience the world in different ways. What I'm going to be talking about here today was work that was shared through a television program. And that was one of the key questions. We wanted to understand whether preschool age children can learn science and engineering skills by watching a television show and playing with the associated media. And fortunately for us, we have the Ready to Learn program. So this is a program that's part of PBS Kids, and they have throughout their 30 years been committed to understanding whether those programs and those services that they're providing to kids and families, are they actually having the effects that are intended? So they asked us to do a study, a real experiment. We were going to experiment to see if the children who got access to this show learned things differently than children who didn't get access to the show.
So I'm excited to know the results. Did they learn?
So they did. It was what we found was really encouraging. So to back up, when I said we do an experiment, how do you do an experiment with children? So we gathered 450 children and families, 4 and 5-year-old children from across the United States. And they randomly got selected to get one of two kinds of tablets. One tablet had all of these Cat in the Hat shows and games loaded onto the tablet, and the other tablet, all of those things were blocked. And it was just a normal tablet that they could use under their parents' supervision. We asked the parents who received the tablet with the blocked materials to have the children use it for educational purposes, but we didn't explain that. Mm-hmm. We did this study in 5 cities from across the United States and focused on families whose household incomes were less than $50,000 a year. And we gave them these materials, and the focus of that season of the Cat in the Hat, this was season 3 of Cat in the Hat, was on helping explain some really basic science and engineering concepts. So things like what makes a bridge stable and how do different surfaces affect sliding. And so those things weren't presented in the way that you would in a high school class. Here are the properties of physics. It was the cat with his band of friends playing different games and working through all of those different activities and having fun doing it. And what we found was in that experiment, after just 8 weeks, we tested them at the beginning. What do they know about these things? What can they do? We tested them 8 weeks later. And we found that those children who'd gotten access to the Cat in the Hat materials, they were able to do tasks like to build a bridge with stronger structure and stability. They were able to better describe which car is going to go faster down this incline, and why? What are the words behind it? So they not only were able to apply this to real world things that 4 and 5-year-old children like to do, but they were able to appropriately incorporate the scientific vocabulary, things like friction and stability and being able to characterize why one material was stronger than the other. Sometimes we think about science, particularly with young children. I'm a parent of children who are a little bit older now, but I remember this when my children were younger, and thinking that they're too young for science, right? Science is something that happens in high school and beyond, but it's not. Young children are natural scientists. I mean, what do? They ask questions about the world. They experiment. They see what happens. And that curiosity, that confidence, and those critical thinking skills are really important to be able to develop in children's early years. So we were really encouraged and surprised, not so much surprised, I mean, this is quality stuff, but I think impressed that the things that children were experiencing on that screen translated into the kinds of activities they were doing in real life.
That's fantastic. It doesn't surprise me that kids are learning while they're having fun. I'm reminded back way long ago, probably before you graduated from college, I made a disabilities awareness video. And we talked about all the different things, bringing people together, including them, and a school system between where you are and where I am that's very respected, viewed the video. And the response I got back really surprised me, because they said, we love the message. It's exactly what we want our kids to hear. It was well done, but we're not going to use it because it's too fun. And given the community, I wasn't all that surprised, but it baffled me, because it seems to me to be natural that if you have a kid that's having fun and is interested in something, I think they're much more apt to learn it and embrace it than if you're sitting them down and telling them pay attention and parrot back stuff that's not fun or interesting.
I think the trick is being able to design things that are both fun and that they speak to children, and they don't talk down to children, but they speak to them in a way that is going to be engaging for them. But doing that with a focus on some important content or skills that we're looking to pass along. And this is one of the things. So, again, I don't work for PBS, so I'm not here kind of shilling for PBS, but I've had the opportunity as a researcher to look at their materials. And I think it's what has long made them different. These are shows, not just like The Cat in the Hat, but Molly of Denali and Peg Plus Cat, The Odd Squad for older children, is that they're designed alongside educators, that they include members of their community to help them understand what is it we want kids to learn and how do we want to pass that along, and then they test it to see whether or not it's having an effect. And to their credit, when things don't work, they go back to the drawing board and say, okay, let's fix this and make it better. I think when folks think about children's engagement with media and with screens, they have some appropriate concerns about that. And it's not that the very nature of the screen is bad for the child, although there's some talk about it's not as interactive, but I don't think that's the case. It's that much of the content that children are engaging with in these screens is made not with a focus on educating or developing or growing. It's made with a focus on monetizing their engagement. And I think when that's your approach, I think you focus on different things. And so we get a lot of questions about this where folks ask us, wait, are you telling us screen time is good for kids? We've been hearing so much that screen time is bad for kids. And I think where we've come to is it really depends what's on that screen. The other thing that we explored with this study and with other studies around it, really thinking about science and how do we get the most out of the kinds of media that children are engaging with in science. And we found it's pretty clear that when parents or caregivers or grandparents or whomever that adult is who's spending time with the child, when that adult is watching with the child and they're both jointly focused on it and they're having conversations about it. Why did the cat do that? Why do you think that one went faster? Why was he able to get over the bridge when she wasn't able to get over the bridge? That kind of joint engagement with this media takes it to a deeper level, helps children internalize that learning, and shows for them that, hey, the adults in my community, they care about this stuff. They think it's pretty interesting.
Dude, did someone from my organization send you a check? Because that's exactly what we've been talking about here for the past 8 years. It's that time that we spend together with the kids, showing the kids. As parents, we're the most important person in our kids' lives. They look up to us. They want to spend time with us. They want our attention. And when we give it to them, amazing, magical things can happen.
Yeah. And we let them practice and work through some of these concepts and help to understand them. It's hard work. It's hard work to understand, particularly some of this basic science stuff. But when we're willing to do that as the adults in their life, when we're investing in it, they get even more joy out of it, and they want to do it more and more and more. I've heard folks say, and I think this is very true, that working hard on something that you care about, that's passion, right? That's not hard. That's not stress. And this is one of, I think, the real sweet spots for some of these great PBS Kids media things, is that when Molly of Denali cares about it, I care about it too as a child. When Peg Plus Cat cares about it, I care about it. And so it helps to bring the children in and get them excited about it.
Yeah. Boy, as you're talking here, and I have vivid memories of reading with my kids, but also very vivid memories of watching TV with my kids, especially my daughter. And Zaboomafoo was a staple in our home every morning, and it was incredible. And she's learning animals and words, and and it was just and it wasn't something that I said, okay, I'm going to turn the TV on so I can do something else. Right. It was something we both looked forward to, and I think that's the key. It's when we're doing things with our kids, when we're showing them interest, that we love them, that we care about them, and hey, this is something we can learn together.
And I think that's true. I think, unfortunately, we see a lot of media use these days, and this is, we focus a lot on that at SRI, or what kinds of media that are our children using, and what does that mean? So it is increasingly coming from this range of sources, primarily on YouTube. And, we see children, even very young children, regularly engaged with YouTube every day. I mean, I think there's estimates that I believe it's kids under age 5, up to 20 minutes a day, large percentage of kids who are even under age 2 who are using YouTube on a regular basis. And there's nothing inherently wrong with YouTube, but the bulk of the content that is on there is not designed for this kind of educational purpose. So I'll give you an example. I mentioned this experiment where we gave 2 tablets. You either got the Cat in the Hat tablet, or you got the tablet where the Cat in the Hat was blocked. So we went on those tablets where the Cat in the Hat was blocked, and lo and behold, we took a look and said, what were they doing on the tablets? They were watching YouTube, a lot of YouTube. And we said, okay, I wonder, to what extent was that material they were watching on there educational and supportive? And so we went through and we pulled out those videos and we looked to classify them. And it was a shockingly low percentage of those that had any kind of age-appropriate educational content. There weren't many that were doing explicitly bad things, or things that we would say, this is entirely inappropriate for children and this is scandalous that they're getting access to it. But they weren't doing anything particularly good either. We know from other work that, YouTube Kids is pretty good at blocking the bad stuff from getting in. Doesn't necessarily mean that everything that is there is good, but other folks have done research and taken a look and found that Most kids are actually accessing this through their parents' accounts that don't include any filtering. And of course, there's no kind of formal testing for the educational content that's in there. And so I do think that this message about the benefits of certain kinds of media has to be put next to some of the real dangers and concerns about other forms of media and the media that increasingly young children are getting exposed to. So that's an example, I think, of the things we see on YouTube that are very engaging. Kids are very interested in those because they're designed to keep them engaged, but they haven't been made with that educational focus in mind. And, in some ways it can be great. You can go deep on dinosaurs. I mean, you can learn everything and see everything you want to know about dinosaurs or trains or dolphins or whatever it is that's exciting you. But so much of what gets in there isn't designed in that unique way that we need to support the learning of young children.
Yeah. It's funny. I watched YouTube with, we were asked to watch one of our neighbors' 2-year-old. And I sat down and we were told that he likes a very, very popular YouTube show that will remain nameless. And we turned it on and we watched it again together. We didn't just turn it on and walk away. And it really engaged him and kept his attention. And I guess it was kind of funny, but there certainly wasn't any educational value to it at all.
Yeah. And so, I think this conversation, actually, I think when we first were set to talk to each other in our paper, I should say we have a paper that we wrote for a scholarly journal. It's called Educational Researcher, and it was published recently. So this has been peer reviewed and all of those things. And when we were first set to talk, we were preparing for another study for Ready to Learn, to look at their next set of educational media. And since that time, that's been canceled. The whole initiative has been canceled as part of this broader reduction in services and federally funded educational services that's happened over the last 4.5 months. And I think it's for a variety of reasons, it's really a shame. And I think that the sorts of things that we saw, a pipeline of just great stuff that was coming out for kids year after year. I remember Zaboomafoo and the Kratt Brothers and all of those great shows, that history of great shows. Yeah. That have continued. And what's been great about them is they've continued to keep up with the times. I don't know that children watching today would be as excited about Zaboomafoo as they were 25 years ago. Maybe they would. Some things are timeless. I know I showed my children Mr. Rogers when they were little, but I think we won't continue to see that now that funding's been removed. And I have some real concerns for parents and young kids about what is the media landscape going to look like 5 years, 10 years from now. What will children be watching? And will they still be getting access to things like Cat in the Hat that were designed and tested to make sure it's helping them learn these critical early science and engineering concepts?
You bring up some very good points. I'm curious who initiated this study.
So this study was initiated by PBS through the Ready to Learn program. So they had built into their program, as part of their funding, they were going to make sure they were going to hold a certain amount of it to always be testing what they're doing and making sure that it's working. They did a range of other things as well. So they asked us to do it, and that's kind of what we do in our work. We are less like folks in a university who are just kind of pursuing their interests in their area of research. We're here to help answer the questions that matter to schools and school districts and parents and folks like PBS and in the government as well.
Yeah. I'm curious, the kids who got the Cat in the Hat series on their tablets, did they also have access to other content? And is there a way to say, well, there's 100 kids got the Cat in the Hat, and we know all 100% of those kids watched it, or was it 75% of the kids and the other 25 were sneaking off watching YouTube?
It is a great question. So one of the things when you do an experiment like this, you've got to be careful not to try to control too many things. You want to know how is it going to work when there aren't a bunch of researchers watching every week? And so we saw that there was big variation. It was about 3/4 of the children who got those Cat in the Hat tablets, that they accessed about 4 of the 6 of the themes for about 20 minutes across each of the 8 weeks of the study. And it was only about half of them, was 47%, accessed all the material, all the different themes. There were 6 different themes that they were focused on in the Cat in the Hat show. So some did it a lot, some did it a little. We had some children who were watching, 7, 8 hours over the course of a week of the Cat in the Hat. They were watching it a lot. And others, not very much at all. Mm-hmm. When we do the experiment, we take everybody. All we gave them was the opportunity to watch. And then we didn't tell them they had to watch a certain amount every day. We encouraged the parents and told them what we were doing. But so when we talk about these impacts that we had, this is across all the different types of kids, both those kids who are watching it pretty closely and those kids who didn't watch it at all.
Mm-hmm. And is there a way to know how much the parents involved the choices the kids were making? Would you say, the 47% ate it all up, and those are the kids whose parents were like, hey, let's go watch Cat in the Hat together?
We did. We don't know which was which, but we do know that different parents to different degrees reported being deeply engaged, some of them being deeply engaged and doing that kind of watching together. We also offered parents, and these are parents, the opportunity to do various kinds of hands-on activities that were associated with the Cat in the Hat. These were all things that sit on the PBS website. And this is true for many of their shows. You watch the show and it'll direct you to the website. There are little games that the children can play that are associated with what happens in the show or reinforcing some of those learning contexts. And then always some connections to parents about how they can take that and bring that into craft activities or games they're playing outside or things they're doing across their daily life that can help to reinforce that. And we know that some did that and some didn't. And I think, of course, you have to have reasonable expectations for parents. Parents are busy people. It is the hardest job in the world. And I speak from experience as a parent. I was also a former preschool teacher. I know how hard that work is. And sometimes media is pretty helpful for giving you that extra that break. You got to make dinner. You got to change the younger one, and the older one's just got to give you a minute. And so we can't always have that depth of engagement, that joint watching where we're going to talk about things. That's what we want to go for. But I think from the perspective of parents, you also got to give yourself a little break sometimes. Mm-hmm. You can't do all those things every day. You do your best and you know what's coming. But I think having that consistency and knowing that there's some, positive content you can rely on can help you feel a little more comfortable when you've got to set the table, when you've got to clean the room from the mess that just happened, and you just need them to sit and be safe for a moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what are we going to tell parents now beyond watch the Cat in the Hat with your kids and be more engaging with engage in media with your kids and talk about it the same way we talk about books? What else can we learn from the studies? What takeaways should we remember?
So I think an important one is, it's not even media related. It is that young children can learn science concepts. Mm-hmm. So, and they can learn them and they can apply them. Some of the things we're talking about here, we're talking about structure and stability. We're talking about how friction affects movement down an incline. Like, these feel like kind of complex engineering concepts. And I think some parents feel like we've done surveys that have asked parents about this that say, I feel comfortable engaging with my child on literacy activities. That I feel comfortable doing. I feel comfortable somewhat with mathematics, but science, oof, I don't know enough to do science. And I think parents don't give themselves enough credit for just the experience of experimentation and observation and doing that together. They feel sometimes as if in order to engage with their children around science concepts, they've got to know the answers the way that their high school science teacher did. And they don't. They can just continue to explore. And maybe from time to time, go look it up and see, well, why did that work that way? But just that process of let's ask a question. Let's do a little experiment. Let's see what happens and ask that next question. Those are the kinds of things that young children are doing in every aspect of their life every day. And they can do that with the natural environment. Science is all around them and engaging and exciting to them. So I think the biggest thing I took away from this was just a deeper understanding about the capacity for young children to engage in these kinds of ideas and the ways that we can facilitate them. We can facilitate them with digital media and things like that, but we can also facilitate them just by fostering that curiosity, playing with them, and being scientists alongside them.
Yeah, I love that. And boy, my kids are lucky that they had a dad who was very willing to watch stuff that he knew nothing about. There's a lot I know nothing about.
Yeah.
Todd, is there a place where folks can go to read that study and to learn more about what SRI is all about?
Sure. So I'd say, the best way is to come, and you can come take a look at me. My name is Todd Grindoll, easy to find on the web. All of our work is posted at sri.com. Now you'll see we do education. We do lots of other things. So sometimes there's a few clicks from here and there. I'd also point to this is work I do with many colleagues. So this isn't very little in the research world is ever done on your own. So I do want to mention my colleagues Megan Solander, Sarah Gerard, Tiffany Maxon, and then in particular Claire Christensen. If there are folks who are interested in this question of what is on YouTube, how should I think about my kids' engagement with YouTube? My colleague Claire Christensen, I believe she has a YouTube channel where she talks about this for parents. And I'd strongly encourage folks who want to explore that a little bit more deeply to explore some of Claire's work. But also, of course, although the PBS and the Ready to Learn work the federal funding has been canceled, it's still accessible on the PBS website, pbs.com. And I'd strongly encourage parents to go and explore those materials, many of which you can stream online without any sort of subscription service or anything like that. And to access those materials and all of the exciting things that they have stacked up alongside them to foster children's learning and engagement and to help parents to move into that joint engagement space with them.
Awesome. Todd, this has been fascinating. Is there anything that you're working on that you can come back and talk to us about in the future?
Absolutely. So like many folks, we are really interested in the implications for young children's engagement with artificial intelligence. And whether or not we want this to happen, it is. Children are engaging with various forms of AI every day and at younger and younger ages. Our team has been doing a lot of thinking, looking to understand what are the implications for development. Are there areas there where there are real great opportunities to help deepen children's learning? And are there areas of really strong concern where we want to make sure children are not engaging with these entities, or we're putting in appropriate protections to make sure that they're not harmed? So that is a key focus for us right now as we think about the future of childhood. These things are developing very quickly, and I think before we know it are going to become regular parts of children's lives. in ways that we see and ways that also fade into the background. So hope to have more to share and some useful insights for parents on that in the not too distant future.
Well, I absolutely would love for you to come back, talk about that. AI is something that both fascinates me and terrifies me. I tell everybody to be very polite. I am very polite when I use AI, and I always say please and thank you. I want them to remember I was respectful. But I think, and I hear things like, I think Meta was coming out with, there are lots of 13-year-olds who don't have a lot of friends. So we're going to create an AI friend that they can have. That creeps me out, beyond description.
Yeah. Well, the world is changing quickly.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things we think of as our role as researchers is to really seek to help to understand what those changes are and to try to see around the corner around what that's going to mean for children and their development. And how do we steer those changes as best we can to make sure that they are helping children grow rather than harming them. So hold me to it. That's what we are working on over here. And I'd be delighted to come back and share more with you and your listeners.
That sounds great. One last question. Did the parents whose tablets blocked Cat in the Hat, did they get to go back and watch it later? Did you?
Oh, that's a great question. Yes. The part of the experiment was when the 8 weeks were done, we took the restrictions to the Cat in the Hat off of their tablet. We gave them back their tablet. They got to keep it. And those children were then able to access Cat in the Hat on into the future.
We've had a great time talking about a whole lot of things with our guest from CRI.com, Todd Grindoll. Todd, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thanks so much. Bye.
My friends, if you have ever thought about owning a business that's fun, rewarding, and makes a valuable contribution to kids' education, well, Brooklyn Robot Foundry is calling your name. I recently met Ginny Young. She's the founder of Brooklyn Robot Foundry. And let me tell you, she is incredible. Her passion for getting kids excited about STEAM, that's STEM plus art, it's contagious. I'm telling you. This isn't your average kids program. Brooklyn Robot Foundry is all about hands-on, screen-free STEAM fun. These kids get to build a different robot each class and take it home with them afterwards. Kids love it. Parents are raving about it. And now you can own a franchise and bring this incredible experience to families in your community. Now, this isn't your typical franchise. Brooklyn Robot Foundry is a mobile, flexible business with a deep curriculum that's making a real impact in schools and communities around the country. Franchise owners get a proven curriculum, full training, and support from a passionate team. So what are you waiting for? Please visit bit.ly/RobotJed. That's bit.ly/RobotJed. And let them know you heard about it on Reading with Your Kids. If you are a regular listener of Reading with Your Kids, you know how much I love Clowns Without Borders. ClownsWithoutBorders.org. I would love for you to visit that website and consider becoming a joy maker. Clowns Without Borders sends clowns to disaster areas, refugee camps, anywhere around the world that people really need to smile. Clowns Without Borders, we're there. Right now, my friend Josie May and 3 other amazing artists are entertaining kids who really need a smile in Zimbabwe. We would love for you to help them bring those smiles, make that happiness a reality by going to clownswithoutborders.org and consider becoming a joy maker. Your monthly gift can bring a smile to a kid who really needs it. clownswithoutborders.org. Join us right now from the great state of Virginia. Our guest is here today to celebrate her debut children's picture book. It's called Lady Needed Space. Please welcome to the show, Audrey Weatherstone. Hey, Audrey, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Delighted to have you on. What a neat title for a book, Lady Needed Space. You have my imagination going.
Oh, thank you.
So what's this book all about?
So Lady Needed Space is based on a true story. It's in memory of my rescue dog, Lady, who really struggled with reactivity and was very fearful outside. So this book tells her story. It tells her story of being adopted from the shelter and coming home and struggling to make friends and adapt to the busy world around her.
Struggling to make friends. That sounds very much like our dog, who just recently passed away, Augie, a little beagle and something else. And he loved us, but he had a real hard time with other dogs. Really
That
nervous.
sounds like Lady.
Yeah. My daughter has a very large dog that people often mistake for a pit bull, but of course it's not a pit bull because she wouldn't have a pit bull, but it's a pit bull. And that dog knew how to keep Augie in check. So they almost had a friendship. It was, but I felt really bad for Augie because I thought it was a really lonely way to exist for a dog.
Yeah, definitely. Lady was her world was small. She had lots of human friends, but she never made a dog friend, unfortunately.
That's really sad. And obviously it's not that unusual. I guess there are lots of dogs who, for some reason, just can't get along.
It's not. It's more common than I think we realize often. We don't see reactive dogs out in public spaces very often. So yeah, I think we forget that it's actually really common.
So reactive dogs, is this an official term? And if it is, tell us what it means.
Yes, it is an official term in the dog world. Essentially, reactivity is a reaction to a stimulus that is disproportionate to whatever stimulus is presented. So, and that can be caused by a lot of different things. Sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's excitement, frustration, sometimes it's reacting to a traumatic past experience. But this can often look like, in Lady's case, it was lunging at the end of her leash and barking. Sometimes it's growling, sometimes it's biting, sometimes it's running away. But any type of overreaction to a stimulus that does not necessarily warrant that big of a reaction.
Yeah. That's definitely sounds like Augie. He would overreact big time, and it was not fun. And I think you mentioned it could be caused by somebody abusing them. That's what I think happened in Augie's case, because very often if he did something wrong and we came and we found it, we didn't even have to open up our mouth. He would just cower, as if was expected to get beaten, and of course we never did or never would. What inspired you to turn this experience into a children's book?
So when I had Lady and we were working on her training, throughout her training journey, I started blogging about it and connecting through social media with the online reactive dog community, which was really, really valuable for me because it was a very isolating experience and a lot of information I had to learn in order to help her get through what she was dealing with. So I found a lot of value in connecting with fellow reactive dog parents and sharing our stories, and started writing about Lady at that time. And then I was just inspired to keep sharing her story, and thought that creating a children's book would be a beautiful way to do so. I think children and adults have a lot to learn when it comes to understanding dogs and their body language, and when they are asking for space, not just reactive dogs. So I think that's a story that's well told with illustrations too, to see the visuals of that body language and communication that happens with dogs. So yeah, was inspired to keep Lady's story alive, and through visuals, through illustrations.
Well, it sounds like a really sweet gesture. It's obvious that Lady was a huge part of your life.
Yes, very, very much so. Yeah. So it's amazing that her story gets to continue to live on through this book.
Yeah, that's great. Did you always think that at one point you'd be writing a children's book?
I've always had kind of a dream of being an author, but I didn't really know what that would look like. It wasn't always necessarily that I wanted to be a children's book author, but this was kind of the first story that I felt that I had to tell.
Mm-hmm. And now that you've written Lady Needed Space and it's out there in the world, did you catch the children's book writing bug?
I have a couple more ideas. We'll see how this one does first, but I'd love to write another lady story.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about Lady. We talked about her reactivity and kind of, I guess, the negative kind of things. What was it about her that made you fall in love with her?
Well, so the first half of the book is very accurate. The girl in the story, her name's April, but she goes to the animal shelter and just immediately falls in love with Lady. Lady had really, really big ears. She was also a pit mix. But she was very small for a pit and had these really big ears that were very cute. So I was just automatically drawn to her. But she was very sweet at home. She was an angel. She was very loving, very cuddly, loved being interactive. She was very social with people, and very smart. I did a lot of enrichment activities because she was so challenging to take on walks. We did a lot of activities at home to keep her brain working. So like lots of puzzle games, lots of hide and seek, things like that. And she was very smart. She would learn things like that and learn tricks very quickly.
Yeah. Neat. Very neat. You know, the pit bulls are a breed that is, I think, misunderstood. They're, in my experience, they're really delightful animals. They are loving. I guess it's that I never recommend a family with little kids to get one because even the sweetest dog, even the sweetest pit bull, has the potential. They're so strong, you know, that if I had a little one, I'd be afraid that just maybe something would set the dog off.
Yeah, they're definitely misunderstood. It really is. Every dog is unique, and any breed of dog has the potential. All dogs can bite. I think that's an important thing to understand. Like, all dogs, does not matter the breed, they all can bite. Some individual dogs are more likely to than others, but and a saying that I like too is that reactive dogs are good dogs. So even dogs that growl and bite or who have these big reactions, they're really just communicating their emotional experience. They're not necessarily bad dogs. So yeah, but pit bulls are particularly misunderstood.
Yeah. What kind of conversations do you think families can have as they're curled up on the couch reading Lady Needed Space together?
There's two main concepts I hope people get from the book. One is this learning about dog body language. The illustrations, my illustrator did a beautiful job portraying Lady's different feelings through her body language. So learning signs that show that a dog is stressed and that they need more space versus a dog who is relaxed and ready to play. Because, like I was saying, any dog can bite. They're often showing you signs that they are stressed or fearful or uncomfortable in the situation before a bite happens. I see so often videos online of a baby playing with a dog that people are saying, oh, look at this tolerant, sweet, cute dog letting the baby do whatever it wants, but the dog's actually showing a lot of signs that it's very uncomfortable. And so I hope that is an educational part of this book, that people learn safety around breeding new dogs and respecting dogs that are expressing their need for space. Yeah. And the other idea I hope people get from the book is to learn more feeling words. There's lots of big feeling words in the book. Nervous, overwhelmed, confident, brave, safe. So good opportunities to talk about emotional experiences. And for kids who do need more space or do tend to feel nervous or overwhelmed or shy or have trouble making friends, I hope that they can feel validated in that experience and feel like it's normal and okay to feel that way.
What are some of the signs? You mentioned seeing videos online of little kids crawling all over the dogs and everything, and I've seen them. What are some of the signs that we might want to be aware of that might tell us a dog is not really having a lot of fun and needs some space?
Yeah, some common ones are yawning when they're not tired or panting when it's not hot. Some dogs will get really wide eyes. You'll see them kind of looking away and you'll see the whites of their eyes. A lip lick is a common one as well. And you can often tell when a dog's body is more tense if their jaw is tense and they're breathing out of their nose. And sometimes even there's subtleties in a tail wag, like dogs that are relaxed, their bodies are much more loose and wiggly. But when they're stressed, their tail might be wagging, but it'll be raised a bit higher and more stiff.
Yeah. Wow. Fascinating.
Just to name a few.
Yeah. So we all should be aware of those. We've talked here on the podcast of families having conversations with their kids, if they're choosing to bring a dog or any kind of pet into their home. And I think talking about some of these signs would be a very important conversation to have, in addition to you're going to have to walk the dog and pick up the poop and all those other things.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, where can we go, Audrey, to find out more about Lady Needed Space and find out more about you?
Yeah, so my book is out now. It's available on all major book retailer platforms. The links to those are on my website, which is audreyweatherstoneauthor.com. I also have a blog on my website where I post all about Lady Story and dog reactivity and resources. And I'm active on my author Instagram too, which is Audrey Weatherstone Author.
Awesome. You should be a veterinarian or a dog psychologist.
I have a lot more school to go through and to go that direction. Maybe one day.
We've had a fun time speaking to the author of Lady Needed Space. It's the debut picture book from our guest, Audrey Weatherstone. Hey, Audrey, thanks for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you so much for having me.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. Hey, if you enjoyed this show, please consider sending a link to this episode to your family and friends or anybody you think would benefit from giving a listen to Todd and Audrey. Also, if you love Reading with Your Kids and you love our mission of helping all families grow closer through reading, please consider leaving a 5-star review on whatever podcasting platform you find Reading with Your Kids. It really, really does help people discover the show and bring people into our mission. We want to also connect with you on social media, facebook.com/Reading with Your Kids, at Reading with Your Kids on Instagram, and at Deadly Magic on X. Our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Reading with Your Kids. And of course, we have a great website. It is readingwithyourkids.com. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guest, Todd Grindoll. Please be sure to check out SRI.com and find that study, The Cat and the Hat. That's really fascinating to know that young kids can learn STEM lessons from watching videos and playing video games. I also want to thank Audrey Weatherstone for sharing Lady Needed Space. I want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Rory Grady, Stella Sheree. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.